Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the KC CHIROPulse, brought to you by Kats Consultants, helping chiropractors keep their pulse on success. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich with Kats Consultants, and got one of my good buddies here today, Dr. Patrick Hammond. Patrick, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Doing awesome. Now,
Good.
Patrick does a little bit of teaching and coaching for us, but Patrick also has a very successful chiropractic practice. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how doctors can get involved in sports. So I was a team physician for a college, and Patrick, you're team physician for who? I think I've heard of them before.
Yeah, the Kansas City Royals. Getting ready to start my 20th year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the picture behind you.
Yeah.
It's appropriate. Now, tell us exactly what kind of your title and your role is with the Royals.
Yeah, so I started with them in 2002 as the chiropractic consultant. And by that meaning, I'm there to do chiropractic care primarily. I'm mostly there to adjust. Occasionally, I'll do some kinesiotaping, some evaluations, but my primary function is to adjust the players and work with the other healthcare providers and the training staff the best that we can to, number one, keep the player healthy, but number one, just make the organization successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of chiropractors have this idea that, well, if I'm going to be working with a team of any kind, that you're going to have to do everything. You're going to have to tape and address compound fractures and those kind of things. And that's not really the reality in most cases.
No, and I think especially in larger organizations, probably Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, those, I am the chiropractor. I stay in my lane of chiropractic, and they have an orthopedic surgeon to evaluate more serious injuries. They have a medical doctor to do what the medical doctors do. They have trainers, assistant trainers, strength and conditioning coaches. So we all have our area of our expertise and the things we really are good at, and then we work together to make the player and the organization the best it can be.
Yeah, and that was the same way it was with us on the college level. The trainers kind of handled a lot of the simple injuries and the day-to-day stuff. And, the chiropractor, myself, I would just go in and I'd adjust players. And sometimes I'd evaluate some other things. But, we had an orthopedic surgeon for the major stuff. And my clinic just happened to be right across the street. So because we had x-ray, we were the point of contact for x-ray and those kind of things. But for the most part, and Patrick, you and I have talked about this before, chiropractors are already kind of pre-trained to be able to work with athletes and with sports teams, because what are we working on? We're working on function, and that's what every athlete wants. They want better function.
Yeah, and our main goal with the Royals, and I think this is mostly true with most athletes, is really it's about a balanced structure, and if the structure is balanced or as close to that as it can be, it minimizes your risk of injury. But if you do get injured, it also is going to speed up your recovery from that injury. The idea, and we all see it in athletes, and if you look at sprinters or other big events, you're looking for milliseconds of improvement. It's not a huge difference in a lot of cases. So if you can make that nerve fire just a little bit better and function that muscle just slightly better to make them that much quicker, sometimes that's all they need. And that's just what we're really good at. And that's kind of where we can really help and be a huge benefit for any organization.
Yeah, the basketball players at the college level and the baseball players and the track athletes seem to love chiropractic the best, because for whatever reason, they seem to notice that little millisecond, that little 3 centimeters higher that they could jump, or just being able to cut corners just a little bit quicker, swing the bat just a little bit faster. And so it's really fun, I think, working with athletes, because they notice those little improvements almost immediately.
Yeah, and I mean, that is the true joy. If you work with an athlete, and number one, they may feel just slightly better, but if they just notice a slight bit of improvement in their game, whatever sport they're involved in, you probably have a patient for life, and they'll follow you and make sure when you're there to get an adjustment and talk highly of you to other players. And it can really help the setting of the chiropractor in the locker room for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of doctors ask us all the time, well, how do you get involved in major league sports, or how do you get involved with college sports or high school sports? How did you get involved with the Royals?
My story was a little more based off luck, but I've worked with some other teams over the years, and a lot of that just came from cold calling, just checking in with them periodically, and just asking them, "Hey, do you have a chiropractor? Would you like a chiropractor? State your credentials and your what you're really good at and how you can help the team perform." You always have to make sure that when you do contact a team or you talk to a trainer or another healthcare provider involved with that team, it's how you're going to be a part of the healthcare team and how you're going to help all of them succeed. And not just, it's not about you, it's about them and the organization and how you can be a team player in the healthcare arena.
Yeah. Yeah. And my story is kind of funny, really. I had just moved into a new house, hadn't been there probably a week, and we had a tornado. And it wasn't a bad tornado, but it was enough that, it threw some patio furniture around and a few shingles off the roof. And so I was out in my yard cleaning up, and my next door neighbor was out cleaning up his yard. And we just started talking, didn't know each other. And turns out he was the athletic director at the college. And so I just asked him, "Who takes care of your players?" And at that point, they didn't even have anybody. They were in between trainers, and I said, "Well, how would you feel if I came and helped out a little bit?" And so sometimes, and I guess that's kind of luck too, but sometimes you just have to ask. You just have to either be in the right spot or ask. And so don't be afraid to get out there and ask your high school coaches and athletic directors, your local junior colleges, and those kind of places. You never know what opportunity might turn up.
Yeah, yeah. And don't be afraid to accept the opportunity. Don't kid yourself. If you don't feel you're ready, don't do it. But if you feel confident enough in your abilities, most of the colleges that I'm aware of are going to educate you well enough to get your foot in the door. Like I said, most of them are going to want you to primarily adjust. And then you can, as the longer you're there, they're going to increase the confidence in you towards the rest of the training staff. And you can do more and more slowly and gradually. And it's a great opportunity, and it really can separate you from the other practitioners in your area, at whatever level. People just look at athletics a little differently than they might, a personal injury attorney, and nothing against that, that profession or personal injury kind of chiropractic. But if you get involved in the sports, so many other your everyday patients also think they're athletes or old athletes or weekend warriors. So it ties in well to kind of have that type of practice.
It does, and I think it also lends you just a little bit of credibility that maybe some of your competition in the area doesn't have. It just associates you differently in the community. So there's a lot of benefits to it, and it's a whole lot of fun.
hmm Definitely fun. And obviously, and that's a big moniker that people always ask me. I'm not going to get rich treating the Kansas City Royals, but I sure have a lot of fun with it. And part of practice and part of life is to have fun. A lot of smaller
Yeah.
organizations may not pay you at all or pay you very minimally. But if you really enjoy it and have a great time doing it, that's what makes life and makes the world go around. So don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Patrick, did you have any special certifications or anything?
I did not. I have that DC at the end of my name, Doctor of Chiropractic, and obviously have some other certifications. At time, I've learned kinesiotaping and some other soft tissue techniques. And so sometimes we'll utilize that. But like I stated earlier, 95% of the time I'm there to adjust, whether it be the spine or the extremities in different areas. And sometimes just bounce ideas off of the training staff of other things to do. But it also, when you're talking about the credibility component, you have a patient come in and they have a shoulder problem and their son's a pitcher or whatever it may be. So you know what? I'm going to ask the trainer of the Royals about that and see what they say. And then they
Yeah.
do it. There again, it's that separation that you can get a little bit more than another doctor would be able to get.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have any special training either, other than, our years in chiropractic school. And, I really feel like chiropractors are kind of just innately trained to work with athletes to begin with, because our whole focus is on function, and we're great adjusters.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I'm not speaking against programs like CCSP and those kind of things. Those things are great, but you don't have to have those just to get started with a team.
Yeah, and definitely don't let that be the reasoning for not contacting those teams, and especially if they're a bigger organization. like we just talked about, is that they have people to do everything else. They don't have people there to adjust primarily. So if you're good at that, get your foot in the door, and then you can build from there and see what the needs are of each organization, because maybe they would want you to go learn a specific technique, and maybe they would help offset some of those costs. Or if nothing else, they would kind of lock you in there even a little bit better than your other competition, because there's always somebody that's trying to get into that organization as well. And so if you really have a good relationship with the trainer and the organization, you'll probably be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Without naming names, any fun stories or funny stories?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. Good one. Probably, the best story, was probably the 2015 World Series. In my memory, I got to work the 2012 All-Star game, which was a real joy. Certain players, certain personalities, man, will stick out in your mind forever. And that being a college player, and certain people you just get an opportunity to meet that you wouldn't meet otherwise, that you really, you don't want to take it for granted, but it does happen on a pretty regular basis, hanging out in a locker room, in a training room. People from, people in town doing a concert, they all like sports, and they'll come in. I've met Garth Brooks, and I've met a few other bands over the years that just happen to be down in the locker room, and certain people and organizations from, the All-Star game was probably I met, Joe Torre and other big name players in Major League Baseball. So it's just so much fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. I don't have any big stories like that, but one time I remember I adjusted one of the basketball players in the locker room at halftime, and he jumps up off the table and he's feeling great. He's just got this renewed vigor to go play the game, and they go out, and it was actually the regional championship game, and he shoots this beautiful three-point shot to win the game at the buzzer, and he comes running over to the bench. The coach thinks he's going to high-five him. He goes right past the coach, picks me up, and runs around the court carrying me. So
that's a pretty good story.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun, although he was very sweaty. So
it was the end of the game.
Yeah, it was the end of the game. You were telling me, kind of switch subjects here a little bit before we jumped on here. You were telling me about a new certification program in the state of Kansas.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up, because
which I thought was. I know I kind of catching you off the guard there, but I thought it was really interesting. And sometimes it's these interesting little certifications that, like you said a minute ago, kind of set you apart just a little bit.
Yeah, and this was the program is called Infectious Prevention Certification. And my initial thought of that would be, if you have the time to get that certification, and Kansas is doing it, I assume other states would do it as well. Mm-hmm. The state was actually going to reimburse you for the certification. I think it was $375, so it wasn't anything too costly. But the idea is another way for you to separate yourself from your competition, or a great way, because everybody, and we all know this, going after the pandemic, everybody's going to be very heightened against infections and what's going to be the next thing. But if you can get out there and start educating the general public, and heck, you could get in with any organization and talk probably on a weekly basis for the rest of the next 2 or 3 years, it would definitely separate you out of the rest of the competition. But I think it'd also be a great way for a new doc, or even a doc that has been out for a while, needs more clients. You could meet a lot of new people that way.
Yeah, you could. And I think in today's COVID world, with all the safety factors and things that we have to do in our clinics, I think that's one more thing to show patients that you have a heightened awareness, knowledge, and training about how to keep your clinic that much more safe. So I just think in and of that, it's going to attract more clients or more patients for you.
Yeah, and I think it also puts us, on the same playing field with other healthcare providers. A lot of times I think we get separated and not really considered on the same field. So, it puts you on the same even playing field, but, it kind of shows that we are essential, and that we are on a day-to-day basis. We are there for a lot of our patients, and we need to be there on a consistent basis, and to, keep not only your practice safe, but also your community.
Yep, absolutely. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I think that's important. While we know Kansas is doing it, like you said, maybe other states are going to start doing these things. So just keep your eyes and ears open for these little extra things that you can do to set yourself apart from everybody else in the community. Awesome. Well, Patrick, are we expecting a great Kansas City season?
Spring, if it's any sign of spring training, it would be yes. We've had a great start of spring training. We got a lot of new acquisitions and some young players coming up, so I think we'll definitely be better. But there again, I'm the chiropractor and a fan, so I always hope and pull for them every year.
Yeah, well, I'm just a fan. Hopefully, get out and make a game or two this year. Kansas City Royals are one of my favorite teams, always have been. So, Patrick, thank you for joining me today. Everybody, Dr. Patrick Hammond. Patrick, it's good to see you, and we will cross paths again soon, I know. So, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in to the KC CHIROpulse, brought to you by Kats Consultants, helping you keep your pulse on success. Be sure to check us out at katsconsultants.com, and from all of us here at Kats Consultants, stay informed and well-adjusted.